On today's Minute of the Apes, well, you know, I'm kind of back to taking half-naked selfies in the bathroom and sending it to a stranger on the internet.
What?
They greenlit the sequel without a story in mind. They just wanted to equal an unexpected gold mine. He said, oh no, as Heston said, I got to go. These are just some of the facts you ought to know as we go. Beneath the Minute of the Apes. Beneath the Minute of the Apes. Beneath the Minute of the Apes.
The only good human is a dead human.
Hello and welcome to Minute of the Apes, the daily podcast where we break down every minute of the Planet of the Apes movies, 1 minute at a time. I'm Todd. I've got Sean across from me. And
Kitty
Richard,
corner.
I'm
Meow.
just thinking of you with selfies. I stumbled. How many times did it take me to do an intro that I usually do pretty quickly?
3 or 4. Yeah.
So I'm about to go through a gain phase in terms of my diet,
Okay.
where I'm going to start putting on weight. I tried one about 6 weeks ago, and it wasn't. I don't know why I'm telling you this. I tried one about 6 weeks ago, and it was a diet that I did with a nutritionist out of Great Britain, and he put on a lot of weight really, really fast. So now I'm in the process of actually pulling some of that weight back off and then doing a more incremental gain. So I've got a person I've used before that's helped me with this that I don't really know, that's on the internet, that I've never met. And so part of that is I have to show photos of my progress. And so I'm like, here's me in my boxers in the bathroom.
Yeah, and
I mean, it's not in a sexual way, but it just still feels weird to load my phone up with photos
That's
of
why
me in
I'm
my
taking
boxers.
pictures of my wife in her underwear.
Right. We're the same
doing
guy.
that same
We're the
plan.
same guy. Yeah, exactly.
I totally get that. And for those of you, again, that don't know, Richard takes care of his body better than anyone I know.
I'm on my third beer.
You know
I do
what?
so well.
So screw that. My wife and I both really watch what we eat, and on a weekly basis, we make sure we're on path for what we want to do, but at the same time, you are allowed to indulge. You're allowed to have those beers here and there. You do a fantastic job of taking care of yourself. So if you're going to tell me you're taking pictures to give it to a dietitian or whatever you may be called, then there's a reason for that. That makes sense. I will never get to that point. I can guarantee you, because at that point I would probably giggle at myself as I was taking a picture. Like,
It's
I'd make
like
little
that.
cheeky
It's like that
faces.
the first couple of times
it
that I was
really?
like sending
Finger
this
to the
stuff, I'm
mouth.
like- first couple of times I'm like, I should crop these. I think you can see my junk. I mean, how do I take this in such a way that you don't see, you know,
Look at my garbage bowl.
my dirty shower curtain.
And what happens if somebody gets a hold of these pictures and they suddenly post it on Zeus's account?
Well, I was posting it on my own account.
put
I'm
it
like,
on-
I
Were you
was-
really?
Look, I'm losing some weight. This looks good. Look at how cut I am. I did that for a little while. Like,
I
look
follow
at
you on Facebook and Twitter. I guess I never seen these.
I'll go show you these supercut photos of me.
All
I'm
right.
not supercut right now.
No, that's okay. I already have like envy of you when I look at you anyway.
That rope climb.
You know what? Here's a gig. You and I are roughly the same height, and you easily look. I will say this: I will never have fat on my arms because I've been a drummer all my life, and my arms just don't get that way. My gut, however, if I don't watch what I
Got
eat,
all the fat on it.
it will. And I've recently got it all off.
Yeah, that's where we typically gain it. You know.
Yeah, and so when I look at you, I sit there and I think, you know, I just don't have the conviction to dedicate that, but I admire the hell out of what you do.
It doesn't. It's just. It doesn't take much. It's just you start a habit on one thing, and at some point it kind of builds to something else, and just kind of builds from there.
But here's the gig, and we are so far off of Minute of
I
the Apes
know.
stuff.
Another
But
image in
as a
here.
51-year-old man, my
practically.
body's falling apart. I can't run anymore because I've herniated discs. I've now got a blown out shoulder from a wreck. I can't lift weights. So my best goal is to just not eat
Eat
a lot
properly.
of crap and just keep the weight off that way. And I go walk 30 minutes every night very briskly. So at least you do that, right?
Good.
That's our health statement
I know,
for the
yeah.
week.
Yeah.
Stay in
And that's
school,
because,
kids.
so the next minute of Minute of the Apes is going to be about 30 seconds long.
Yeah.
Just kidding. We are at minute 50. Now that
50,
we are
yes.
through all of that, we're at minute 50. Sean, tell us what's going on.
All right, we're going to start minute 50 with Brent still climbing the rock face and ends with Brent and Nova following a mysterious hum.
And here is the minute.
Where the hell they are.
I wonder where the hell we are.
You know what I think? We're near the forbidden zone. That's what I think.
Hell, that's where the army is headed.
That'll be real nice. They'll roll right over us, blow us to bits.
Why can't we go back to our outfits?
Because the Sarge says to keep looking until we find them.
Nova, wake up. We gotta keep going. Come on. You hear it too? All right, come on, we're gonna follow it.
All right, as of minute 50, we have 3 living humans, 4 dead humans, 1 dead ape, a shootness of apes, and a gaggle of humans.
So this minute kind of goes to what I alluded to at the first of the week, where this whole 5-minute stretch really covered the ADR team and all the insertion of stuff, because we get all the gorillas talking off camera.
Yeah.
And
Richard,
No, I have.
Richard
I was
jaw-
going to tell you about that.
Richard had to pick his jaw up off the
I was going
ground.
to tell you about that with the script, but go ahead.
So basically, I look across and Richard's like, "Oh my God, you're right in line with me." But the thing that hit me is that right away we get all these gorillas talking as Brent kind of looks mysteriously around the rocks. He's just come out of the cave. Something's pulled him out. Still, that I'm not convinced why he's out there, but he's out, and we hear gorillas off to the side. What hit me right away is that they really want me to understand that hell does exist for gorillas, because there are 3 comments. I wonder where the hell they are. I wonder where the hell we are. Hell, that's where the army's headed.
Is this the same hell that Han Solo refers to in Empire Strikes Back?
It is that ambiguous science fiction hell.
Yeah.
So the original note was 8 voices. I guess we lost them. The sergeant says to keep looking. We've been here all night. The sergeant says we'd better not come back unless we found them. Keep looking. Right? But the only line that we got out of that was the closing line. The sergeant says to keep looking until we find them.
Which I wondered if that was not voiced by the same person that did Eeyore for the Disney films, because he basically says, "Because the sergeant says to keep looking until we find them."
Until we find them. Yeah.
It's just it's the laziest delivery of it.
Well, so I had read this moment and then I watched this scene, and it is a lot of Brent kind of jostling around the rocks to hear them, and not any shots of the actual apes interacting with each other.
Yeah.
We see them moving around as if they're kind of either getting up or setting down.
Do we see shots of gorillas in that?
We
I don't
do.
recall.
Yeah, we do.
We see shots of them seem to be kind of
Okay, you're right.
I was the word amassing is the wrong word. They're either like getting up from sitting down, or they're just kind of figuring out where they are. Just a couple of cut shots
They're
of
just
this,
like shuffling it back.
and then we get those voices that I wonder where the hell we are. You know what I think? Hell, we're in the Forbidden Zone. That's what I think.
Yeah.
And all of that is very much a voiceover, and they're making that up in editing. This didn't. They shot this and realized they needed something.
Right.
And the whole point with that's where the army's headed. They'll roll right over us.
Mm-hmm.
They needed that dialogue thrown in there to give us a sense of the scene with Ursus and Zaius and Zira and Cornelius that was supposed to happen later. Since they moved that ahead.
Oh, that's true. That's
there you
very
go.
true.
Since they moved that scene ahead,
Mm-hmm.
They had
they
to
decided in
justify-
editing to take out the sergeant's original line about them just giving up on them.
So besides that dialogue that you read originally being better, when you talk about that we have no shots where we can see the gorillas and even Brent at the same time, how great would that have been? Once again,
You see Brent kind of climb up behind
yeah, you
them.
just see his head peek
Come
over and
peeking
the
over a
camera is
ridge.
just here and we see him down there. And you could even, to really exemplify that the shot Richard just went to, which is a what they call a 2T shot up from the nipples up, that of Brent, they could have gone to a tight of his face and we would have seen it. And we would have, then we would go, oh, I
Or
see
hell,
where he is.
even just an over the shoulder of him.
Yes.
So that you're seeing from his angle that he's seeing these gorillas.
And I don't want to hear that this is budget, because you've already done handheld. Your first film did the sled cam that they invented for those shots. You can handhold a camera, and
You
you
did a
can
handhold when you did the breaking up the chimpanzees.
Right. You can handhold and be in a new setup in seconds, because they're not shooting with light, so they may be doing some reflectors to balance, but that is daylight.
Yeah.
That is daylight shot.
right.
You could expose correctly and get those shots. You can do guerrilla filmmaking. You can do guerrilla filmmaking, get out there and grab tons of angles. It's just it's lazily
lazy,
executed.
sloppy, quickly done.
They have this kind of long. Again, we don't see them both in the same shot. They're clearly above that log that they had climbed over before that we thought they were passing by, and they're kind of gathering their stuff up together as if they're about to move on again. And he kind of peers up, he climbs up. We get a shot that makes us think that he's looking at them, and then he pulls back down to the to the kind of the mouth of the cave, and then kind of stands there as if he's listening. And it's like they had that they took this shot, and then they decided to fill it with gorillas talking. They decided to explain the fact that they'd moved that one scene earlier in the film. To a certain sense, if he's listening to what they're saying, he now hears that the army is on its way. Right? Which might indicate some type of panic, but he doesn't necessarily, well, I mean, that might give him a reason to go deeper into the cave.
It might, but once again, and I correlate so much of this to like songwriting. You know, when you listen to a song is going to do certain things that you now know it's going to go to a chorus.
Resolve a chord or something.
Yeah,
like that.
you know when it goes da 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 dum. You know those. Amen is ba dum. You know these things. Film has that same language. We needed that early on where we see Brent actually visually seeing these people. I expected it, and I kept. Whereas that cut,
it never resolved for you.
And what should have happened with these gorillas, it should have. I do like that's where the army's headed. I like that. Then somebody should have said, then I guess we better go into the cave and see if they're there or not, because we're going to get beaten if we don't look, if we can't say.
We haven't searched everywhere.
We're giving him a reason.
That then puts threat upon Brent, who then says, we got to go. That makes sense. What he does right there, that's a very vague, that's where they're headed. It's an illusion, but it's not enough.
The entire scene of him coming out of the cave, climbing up the rocks partway, then climbing back down the rocks and receding back into the cave. There's the only one shot that could have just been picked up later on that we're not even sure that he's in front of the cave, of the one that you talked about from the tits up. That one little shot to establish that he's listening to the gorillas at that moment wasn't even that, didn't even have to be a shot at that moment. Like, it really was like, we're going to shoot him climbing out of the cave. We're going to shoot him climbing back down into the cave. It just didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't have any connection to it. So we're 21 seconds into this. We just had that dialogue with the gorillas saying that they think that they're in the forbidden zone and that's where the army's headed and they're going to roll right over us. And they want to know why they just can't go back to their own outfits, their own military outfits.
Yeah, made me question is because they're saying, are these gorillas not in the army? I mean, why are they worried about being rolled over and blown up? Because they're wearing the same uniforms that people in the army wear. I'm assuming the army. So what are these gorillas that they're worried about another force coming in and rolling over them?
I honestly think this was a last minute choice to put this dialogue in there to explain some stuff that they did in editing. Because we don't even get to see we don't even get to see the gorillas talking to each other like they're interacting. We just see them kind of shuffling about. We don't see them actually peering to each other to say anything. It's just it's sudden.
And on top of this, they bring up the fact that they think they're near the forbidden zone. If it's a forbidden zone, wouldn't you know where it is, so you don't go there?
Right.
So I mean, it's a whole lot of confusion.
There's a whole lot of laziness going on right now.
And that would have been actually kind of interesting if earlier on we had seen them in such a heightened state.
Almost like they pulled up because they're close to the forbidden zone. Like, we're not supposed to go there, and they go the humans went in there. We have to go chase them down.
And then how interesting is that for Brent or Taylor or whoever is being pursued? That if they stop, why'd they stop?
Yeah.
There's a mystery. Stories are supposed to have mysteries that continually evolve, and if they introduce something, then that's the moment when my lovely 15-year-old daughter goes, I don't understand. Well, if you'll be quiet, you will, because that's what stories do. And this story does not do it.
That giant pan of that mountain might have been the first indication that that's what's happening, that we're entering somewhere unique.
Right.
But we just missed that in storytelling. We're supposed to kind of piece that together on our own watching it.
You go to a shot of the gorillas on the horseback, and they're getting near the forbidden zone. We have to get them before they get there, something like that.
That adds tension for them. Yeah. That's something we don't understand. That's new information we want. We don't get those things.
Well, even if Brent and Nova had gone past the giant pan up of the mountain and walked in, and then the gorillas reacted to the giant mountain, like if that had been there, like, oh,
true,
well, no, we got to get in there. We got to get them, right? Just that moment. So we're 21 seconds in. He then kind of climbs back down. It's a little bit of a weird wasted moment. He kind of jostles Nova awake. She kind of looks a little